Budget stuff, again, just to kind of keep you in the loop, I'm trying to share with you as much as I can, as often as I can. Yesterday, I emailed teachers a link for you to review. It's a PowerPoint presentation. It may not do the actual presentation justice because you're going to have to look into it and it was elaborated on. I did receive another link last night from Dr. Gorman that is the actual audio presentation. So I will be either posting that on our Facebook page so parents can pull it, or we'll figure out another way to get that out there. But I think hearing the audio with the PowerPoint is going to create some clarity for you, because if you just look at the 4 tiers, it's going to create some questions for you as you look at it. You're going to see certain things, for instance, and I wanted to make a copy of it, but in one of the tiers it talks about career and technical teachers in high school. I think they're called CTEs, career and technical education. And it was 40-some positions, or 28, I don't remember. It'll say 28 lost positions are going to be cut. The reality of some of these things are that we were given these positions once the year started. They were never filled. So these are positions where you're losing positions but not human beings. So people aren't losing their jobs in some of these cases. They were positions that we got late, they weren't able to be filled, so they're just going to disappear. So, you know, when you look at some of those things, you're like, oh my gosh, look at all these people that we're losing. In some cases, that's not necessarily true. There are other cases where it is absolutely true. Other things that, you know, I've mentioned to this group in the past are, you know, the teacher assistant formulas on there. Now, those are worst case scenarios. Bev Purdue came out Monday night and did her State of the State address. And, you know, take this for what you will. She's saying that education is not going to be impacted at all. Now, you know that's probably posturing because the House and the Senate hasn't had their say on that yet. So she has come out and said that I don't want any teachers to lose jobs at all, and we're not going to change assistants in elementary schools. I don't know how hollow that's going to be or how much of a reality that's going to be. It's good to hear the governor say that, but the reality is until the House and Senate begins to work with her to shape the budget, we really don't know for sure. And I think her full budget comes out tomorrow. I have a friend that actually taught with me at Northeast Middle School in Charlotte, who's actually a representative now. Her name's Trish Cotham. I think her district is South Charlotte. I emailed her the other day, and Bev Purdue's budget will be coming out tomorrow. So that will be the first step in the dance. And then the dance will begin back and forth of the negotiation of what's going to get cut, what's not. There's still a lot of argument about the tax cut, and I don't know much about it. There was a tax break that was imposed. Are they going to keep that in place? Are they going to take that off? I think some Democrats want to keep it, Republicans want to cut it. There's talk of tax exemptions for businesses coming into North Carolina. Bev Purdue did address that and actually reduced the amount of a break that businesses would get to one of the lowest in the country. In her initial discussion. Whether that'll stay, we don't know. There's going to be obviously argument about that in regard to how is that going to impact the economy of North Carolina. I think the discussion of video gambling, I think, is going to be brought up in North Carolina. Do we have it? Do we not? Is that going to be a way to generate revenue? How the lottery is designed for education. Just so you know, if you don't, great percentage of the lottery goes to advertising. If you look at the breakdown, and I think you could probably pull it up on various sites on the web, but if you look at the breakdown, and I think we partially did ours based on the state of Florida, which was the best one at the time, but a big chunk of that goes to advertising and actually running the lottery. A small chunk goes to schools, and that really is not additional funding. It's kind of, it supplants other things, so it's kind of just keeps you stable. It's not like, well, this is an extra $10 million your system has to use, spend it however you like. It's more of, well, since we have $10 million, we're going to slide it in here, and then we're going to use $10 million for something else. So it's not supplementing, it's really supplanting. So it's more just keeping the status quo. So if you're interested in knowing about that. But the lottery is, it was kind of introduced to people as a saving grace. Not necessarily so. It's not necessarily so. It's not creating the revenue streams that I think that were thrown out there to people initially. So that's kind of the budget stuff right now. The big thing, really nothing's been passed at all except the times, which I talked about previously. The thing that I kind of was shocked that hasn't got passed yet is the pre-K. It looked like it was tabled 2 meetings ago because they only had 8 people. And I thought that was more of a strategic decision in regard to making sure you didn't have a 4-4 tie. You wanted to make sure you had all 9 members there. And then last month, they had all 9 members there and they tabled it again. And a lot of it's coming from, they're hoping for an outside revenue source, or one of these groups going to be able to initiate funding for this, so they're kind of tabled it and they don't want to make a decision yet. So that's kind of the big animal that's kind of sitting out there that's getting the most attention right now in regard to the budget. But there's going to be a process. The reality is we can't do much with our budget until we know what the state and local budgets are going to be. The other interesting thing about the PowerPoint that I asked teachers to send out yesterday, and if you haven't got it, ask your teacher so they can get it to you, but there is a graph in there that actually shows funding sources. So you can actually see how much money we get from the county, how much money we get from the state, so you can begin to see where those funds are coming from. So a lot of the stuff that we talk about is really state level kind of things. It's not CMS per se. When you talk about salary of teachers, CMS does not pay the majority of the salaries of their teachers. That's a state thing. So when you talk about, well, CMS should do furloughs and things like that, those are state decisions that have to be made. And then once flexibility is created, then CMS could do something. You hear people that argue every staff member should get a 10% pay cut. That way no one has to lose their job. You know, those things are all out there, but there's processes that have to be followed to make those things happen. That's not something Peter Gorman can just say, we're going to do that. And I'm not sure he would even if he could. So those are things you'll continue to hear about as you go. But please look at some of these various sites that are out there and make sure you're getting a wide array of views, because what you read in the paper is really only one view that's out there. CMS will have a completely other view, and you would expect that. So make sure that you're triangulating that with other views as well, so you're getting a full picture of what's going on from a variety of sources. And there's a lot of education consortiums in North Carolina and in the Charlotte area that will give information. They have good websites. There's the John Locke Foundation that weighs in pretty regularly, and there's several other ones you read about in the paper. To just check their sites and get their view on things. And I think that will give you a much more broad view of what's going on versus CMS's view versus the media's view. And some of those things are the same, but I think some things are sensationalized too to sell papers. You know, you look at some things and it's going to be, the headline's going to be 600 teachers lose jobs, you know, and the reality is nothing's been done yet. I mean, it's actually over 1,000, but that number is going to be there. And the reality is, these are proposals, worst case scenarios. And then the other thing to know about when you look at the tiers, if you've had time to do that, if money is found, and according to Bev Perdue, we were at $2.8 billion debt in North Carolina. We're only at like 2.3, yay. At least that's what she's throwing around. What that could possibly mean is some of the things in our tier 4 will come off that list. They'll start at the bottom and add stuff back in. So the very bottom is class size. I think it's class size plus 2 is what it's called. And what that means is 4th through 12th grade classes will all add 2 students. And if X amount of dollars is found, that comes off it. And then it'll go up to the next thing. And so it worked its way up from the bottom up. Just so you're aware of that. So if money's found, these things will slowly peel back in to our budget as we go. And again, after you look at this stuff, please email me or call. I'll find out any information. I've received a couple really good questions about what do we do with the land once a school is closed. I didn't have an answer for that, so I forwarded that on to Ann Clark and Scott Murray to kind of discuss that with them. What other things were brought up? Oh, at the state level, are we going to look at changing some of the retirement so people will retire early, maybe to get some of the higher salaries off? A question that I'm not sure is being discussed at the state level or not. In the Northeast, it's done pretty regularly, and it's done to get teachers that have all of their pension or close to their pension, and they're making like $80,000, $90,000 a year because of the union, and they try to get those people to leave early, and that way you can reduce some of your salary costs. So I'm not sure about that. So there's been some good questions that I've been asked, and we'll try to find out the answers for you as quickly as we possibly can.